Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Serenity Abhidharma, and I'm speaking here as the first speaker from the government team. And today I want to bring the case of motion that this House believes that scholarships should only be granted on the basis of finance necessity. Before tackling into my case, I would like to define some words in this motion. The first word I want to define is scholarships, a finance aid that cover most or all of the tuition fee of education that have been burdened into students or their parents. My second definition is on financial, that is somebody's wealth condition. And my last definition is necessity, something that is necessary to someone's life. And in this case, it is education. Moving on into my status quo, that in our current state in Indonesia, everybody is able to apply for scholarships and they have the same possibilities regardless of their financial condition. Whether they are wealthy or poor, they have the same possibilities of getting a scholarship. Moving on into the mechanisms on how we are going to tackle this motion is that the government will determine a wealth point for anyone who wanted to apply for a scholarship. After this mechanism, I would like to say my arguments regarding this motion. Well, my first argument is that wealthy people have the inheritance ability to pay for their own education. Many people didn't know that whether they are wealthy or poor, it is not a decision to make, but rather an inheritance of your parents, whether they are poor or wealthy. This means that wealthy people are already and have the ability to pay for their own education, for their own kids' education, and they have an insurance that they are most likely get a formal education even into college. Whereas the poor, who have no choice of being poor or wealthy at the first place, have a lower percentage possibilities of getting into a college. These examples tell us that that inheritance of having a wealthy parent deserves no scholarship, as they have the ability to go to a college, for example, by their own money. Moving on into my second argument is that by setting this motion, this will encourage more equal education for all people across the society, whether they are wealthy or poor. Many people in the poor regions, or maybe just having a poor inheritance at all, didn't believe in themselves that they will have the proper education they are being dreamed of. What is the current situation that is true, where wealthy people are getting more wealthier because they have an easy access into education, and by giving these scholarships into wealthy people, it will eventually making them easier to make a social division. By setting this motion that scholarships should only be granted by the basis of finance necessity, the poor people have a higher possibilities of getting into a formal education, which will encourage all of the society to get an education at all. That's the point. And by having this equal society where everybody is educated, we are having an efficiency of society where everybody have understand each other. The poor people eventually will get a better job. They have a better chance of living because of the scholarships. That's why the scholarships is pretty critical to their living, as they must get it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have it at all. They wouldn't have life at all. But if you give these scholarships into, let's say a wealthy person, they'll just use it. But if they don't get it, they'll just use their own money. They have the same percentage whether they are getting scholarships or not getting the scholarships on getting a formal education at all. My last but not least of my argument is that by granting these scholarships into poorer people, this will eventually help those who really needs help. Poor people in the society just really need some boost into their lives. They need some kind of a push point where they can change their lives from a poor people into finally a wealthy one. This, however, has already been applied to, but it also focused on the wealthy people. Well, the wealthy people eventually have their possibilities set. They already have money, they have connection, and they have many things that the poor didn't have. By helping these poor, the government eventually helping all people by really helping those who really need help. Well, that's all of my arguments for this motion that we as the government team fully supported that scholarship should only be granted on the basis of finance necessity. That's all for me. Good morning. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.